Hello and welcome to News Round, a recap of stories in the week. I'm Sowore. The headlines. Prospective applicants in the ongoing National Identification Number enrollment continue to gather in their numbers at National Identity Management Commission offices as NIMC staff embark on strike. Nigeria records all-high single-day infection of COVID-19. PTF warns on disobeying COVID-19 protocols. Chief Magistrate Court in Abuja remands leader of the Revolution Now group, Mr. Sowore, 4 others in Kuje Correctional Center. And in the United States, 5 die and dozens injured as hundreds of President Donald Trump supporters converge on Capitol Hill in a bid to overturn his election defeat. News Round kicks off with prospective enrollees in the ongoing National Identification Number enrollment exercise continuing to flock around the National Identity Management Commission across the state. Also, workers of the commission embarked on an industrial action to press home their demands for better welfare and their safety against COVID-19.
Day after day, registering for the National Identity Number doesn't seem to be getting any easier. At NIMC offices in Lagos and Abuja, applicants clog the entrance. Everyone appears to want to get it done.
They did a mistake. They now know that I'm a man, very close to 60. He registered me in everything correct. When he want to put where he's supposed to put male, he put female.
Although there have been constant allegations of extortion and nepotism, which applicants say have taken over the process, officials of the commission refuse to comment.
At the end of it all, they said there's a mistake, there's error on date of birth. It has to be corrected. Okay, fine, correct it now. This is the system. They said I need to pay 15,000 naira into a remitter.net account. I don't understand where that account is.
Crowd control is still a problem and chaos is the order of the day, with little or no compliance to COVID-19 protocols, especially with the second wave rising fast. This and poor welfare packages is why staff of the National Identity Management Commission take a decision to withdraw their services.
We have waited till 2021 to ensure, to see that the proper enumeration due for us were incorporated into the 2021 budget, but to no avail.
We're meant to have called this last year, but we decided to listen to them because they told us our allowances and an improved salary structure will be included in the budget of this year. The budget, we had the opportunity of seeing the budget last week, and it wasn't included. That's why we've embarked on this action.
We understand that the World Bank, they have given the federal government all that is necessary for us to cope this COVID-19 issue. But we don't have any materials.
Across the nation, no one is granted entry into their premises, a decision the applicants find difficult to cope with.
Because of the COVID-19, they should just allow the whole thing to rest. People should go and do whenever they want to do. They should do it the way they have been doing it. But they should enlighten people, should go and do it, not to rush people.
Look at the situation we're inside now. People have been coming stranded and you say you're on strike. And the NCC said that they give ultimatum of 2 months.
But the workers have decided to put the strike on hold after a meeting with the federal government where an agreement was reached on their demands.
This issue has been resolved between the management of NIMC on one hand and the union on the other without involving the ministry in any way. So only the DG notified me a few hours ago that they had a meeting and they agreed to suspend the strike.
Now that the strike has been called off, it is expected that the Commission will live up to its promise to attend to all prospective enrollees before the January the 19th and February the 9th deadline.
From the NIN registration across states to the country recording an all-high single-day infection rate of 1,664 cases on Wednesday, January the 6th. The National Coordinator of the Presidential Task Force on COVID-19 says this is cause for concern and another lockdown may just be in sight if cases continue to rise amidst disregard for safety protocols.
Prior to December 2020, when Nigeria began to witness a steady rise in the number of COVID-19 cases, infections were relatively low, with a case fatality that was less than 2%. However, the statistics is changing very fast, and it is constituting a major concern for the Presidential Task Force, which announced that the government may consider another lockdown if the cases continue to rise.
The Presidential Task Force is very concerned about the increasing daily numbers that we are recording. Yesterday, 6th of January 2021, we recorded 1,664 infections. This is yet another all-time high in Nigeria, and we must all take full responsibility through compliance and vigilance.
We are saying that if these numbers continue to go up and we start having significant deaths, we'll have no option. And if we do not want to lock down, now is the time to make sure that we follow these non-pharmaceutical interventions.
Nigeria recorded 1,664 single-day cases of new infections on Wednesday, the highest in recent times. Case fatality has also risen to 3% as 1,324 persons have been lost to the virus. Perhaps more worrisome for the task force is the infection rate amongst people between the age bracket of 20 and 50 years.
The majority of the cases recorded are between the ages of 21 to 50, and this poses a lot of risk to the elderly. During this holiday, I'm sure most of us went home to see our grandmothers, our grandfathers, and so in the process, if we were careless, we would have transmitted this virus today.
The Nigerian government is anxiously awaiting the delivery of COVID-19 vaccines approved by the World Health Organization, but none of these will be administered on its citizens without the certification by the National Agency for Food and Drugs Administration and Control, NAFDAC.
We are cognizant of the fact that it's not enough to just present the vaccines, but providing information that articulates very clearly that these vaccines have gone through those processes that will assure us of their safety. Working with NAFDAC, the COVID-19 vaccine will not be an exception.
There are currently over 15,000 active cases of COVID-19 in Nigeria. This besides the 77,299 cases that have been successfully treated and discharged from various hospitals.
Staying with the COVID-19 pandemic, but this time Nigeria is in talks with China on how to procure COVID-19 vaccines for the country. After a closed-door meeting with the Chinese Foreign Minister, Mr. Wang Yi, Nigeria's Foreign Minister, Minister of Foreign Affairs, Mr. Geoffrey Onyema, said China had been a partner from the advent of the pandemic.
China's Minister of Foreign Affairs and State Councillor, Mr. Wang Yi, arrived in the headquarters of Nigeria's Ministry of Foreign Affairs as both nations mark 50 years of bilateral relations. Nigeria's Minister of Foreign Affairs is leading the delegation, which also includes other ministers as they held talks on several issues, including railway construction and maintenance, aviation, education, health and the economy.
China is also one of those countries that has been able to develop vaccines for COVID, and so we're also engaging with China to also help with regards to access to vaccines for our people. We also agreed to sign MOU, Memorandum of Understanding, on establishing an intergovernmental committee that will be charged with coordinating all aspects of cooperation between the two countries. There are many areas and many sectors in which we are cooperating with the Chinese. And so we decided on an institutional mechanism that will be charged with monitoring and coordinating all that multi-sectoral engagement.
Both men put pen to paper to further strengthen the relationship between both countries. The agreement also includes collaborations in security and defense. To conclude his two-day visit, the Chinese diplomat meets President Muhammadu Buhari at the State House in Abuja, where the president pledges that Nigeria will continue to honor its obligations with China. In a statement following the visit, the president thanked China for its support in infrastructural development.
Well, speaking of vaccines, Nigeria is expected to take delivery of some 100,000 doses of Pfizer-BioNTech vaccines by the end of January. Well, that's coming from the executive director of the National Primary Health Development Agency. He was speaking at the weekly briefing of the Presidential Task Force on COVID-19 in the nation's capital, Abuja.
Only last week, the Presidential Task Force on COVID-19 warned that January 2021 would be tough. This week, the warning has not abated, in spite of the announcement that 100,000 doses of COVID-19 vaccines are expected in a few weeks.
Nigeria is expected to secure free delivery of 42 million doses of vaccines, which will be a combination of all the available and approved vaccines currently in the market. This is expected to cover about 20% of the population. 40% will be vaccinated in 2021, while 30% will be covered next year.
As he gives a timeline of Nigeria's access to the vaccine, the real concern is the cooperation of state governments to force compliance in communities. At this point, a task force, he says, might be crucial.
We are asking state governments to please set up task force teams that are empowered to make sure that people wear face masks in public and observe all the rules that we have put in place.
In addition, the news that over 700 members of the National Youth Service Corps has tested positive for COVID-19 is a call for dire measures.
Out of the 35,419 in batch B, 731 tested positive compared to 108 recorded during the batch A. It is on record after we have evaluated and analyzed the data that cases were recorded from core members from every state of the Federation.
The PTF chairman further announced approval by the president for the rehabilitation of 5 oxygen plants across various health institutions across the country.
The dramatic rise in the number of cases of COVID-19 and, in consequence, the deaths has compelled another plea by the Presidential Task Force on COVID-19 to state governments to upscale the non-pharmaceutical interventions. Regarding this is primarily to halt any need for a second national lockdown. Gloria Umezuke, Channels Television News.
Chief Magistrate Court in Abuja remands leader of the Revolution Now group, Mr. Omoyele Sowore, 4 others in Kuje Correctional Center. Details in a moment. Stay with us. Thanks for staying with us on the program. The leader of the Revolution Now group, Mr. Omoyele Sowore, and 4 others did not smell the air of freedom as the Chief Magistrate Court in Abuja ordered their remand at the Kuje Correctional Center. The 5 men are facing a 3-count charge of criminal conspiracy, unlawful assembly and incitement following a protest organized during the New Year crossover.
The convener of Revolution Now, Mr. Omoyele Sowore, is back in court, this time before a magistrate court on fresh charges. On arrival, security operatives escorted the defendants into the court for the arraignment. A 3-count charge of criminal conspiracy, unlawful assembly and inciting public disturbance is read to the defendants and they all plead not guilty. With the plea taken, the defense lawyer applied for their bail, but the application was opposed by the prosecutor on the ground that the investigation is still ongoing. Ruling on the bail application, the magistrate insisted that the defendants must file a formal bail application and she ordered them to be remanded at the Kuje Correctional Center. The prosecutor explains the charges against the defendants.
We have a case, and the truth of the matter is that today is the first sitting day of court in FCT after the break, and that is exactly in line with the constitutional provisions. We have to come to court, and we are here. So, and they were being charged for criminal conspiracy, unlawful assembly, and then inciting public disturbance to the extent that somebody is calling that there should be a change of government.
Lawyer to the defendants argues that the police have no case against his clients.
Some patriots between the 31st of December and the 1st of January 2021 staged a peaceful protest around Gudu area, and then they were rounded up and arrested and taken to the notorious SAS abattoir, where they were brutalized, tortured, and serious injuries were inflicted upon them. As I speak with you, Mr. Omoyele Sowore says he has a broken nose.
Sowore and 4 other defendants were arrested in the early hours of January 1st, 2021 at Gudu district for allegedly inciting the public against the federal government at an unlawful assembly.
In Kubwa, a satellite town in the Federal Capital Territory, Abuja, poultry farmers at the Gado Nasco farms are lamenting their losses after a demolition of the farms by government officials. The exercise has brought a war of words between the farmers and officials of the Development Control Agency.
Poultry farmers at Gado Nasco farms picking up what is left of their buildings. This facility has been providing means of livelihood for over 500 people who are engaged in poultry and fish farming. Is now a shadow of itself. One of the poultry farmers narrates how she started the business after retirement with a yearly payment plan of between 50,000 naira to 100,000 naira to secure a plot by managers of the farm. Her dream towards self-sufficiency is however cut short as her property is razed down by officials of development control.
We got confused with my workers. We run this way, run that. We didn't know what to pick because I have 2 poultry filled with beds, over 1,000 beds. So we were confused. I now sent some people to the poultry, now took chicken bags, feed bags, started loading my chicken, live chicken, suffocating them into the bags because I didn't want them to ground it with the thing they brought to lift everything off. When we finished with this, we ran there, we started removing the beds. Many of my beds yesterday, over 500 of my beds died.
Her story is not any different from that of Fatima Omar and Modu Usman, who is beginning to pick the pieces of his life after fleeing the northeast.
My shop yesterday, they just come and demolish my shop. Without anything, we are paying money to Gado Nasco, to Sefianu. They did not tell us. They only tell us to came here yesterday and tell us to come out. This is my means of survival.
This demolition started yesterday. No notice, no information, anybody. That's how affected us. Now we don't know where we are going.
Officials of the Development Control defend their actions, saying the owners of the farms were served notice of demolition over 1 year ago.
This particular site is designated and planned as Kubwa District Center. Yes. And a district center comprises a lot of other facilities like stadium complex, employment area, shopping complex, hospital, markets, etc., etc. This is the plan for the area.
The Development Control has promised tougher punishments for those who violate the master plan of the federal capital city. In the meantime, these farmers will be looking for how to fend for themselves and their families following this demolition.
5 people have died and dozens injured as hundreds of U.S. President Donald Trump supporters converged on the Capitol, home to both the U.S. Senate and the House of Representatives.
USA! 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 USA!
Violent protest at the U.S. Capitol leaves at least 4 people dead. Dozens of people were also arrested after supporters of outgoing President Donald Trump stormed the Capitol building in chaotic scenes.
I will not tolerate fake news no more! Yes, yes! This is our
A rough estimate of up to 30,000 Trump supporters had earlier gathered to hear a rally by the Republican incumbent, with large numbers later marching towards the Capitol and many seen breaking into the building.
All of us here today do not want to see our election victory stolen by emboldened radical left Democrats, which is what they're doing, and stolen by the fake news media. That's what they've done and what they're doing. We will never give up. We will never concede.
The violent intrusion forced electoral vote counting to certify President-elect Joe Biden's victory in the 2020 election to be halted and led to members of Congress being taken to a secure location. While reacting to the violence, Mr. Biden says the activity of the protesters borders on sedition.
To storm the Capitol, to smash windows, to occupy offices, the floor of the United States Senate, rummaging through desks, on the Capitol, on the House of Representatives, threatening the safety of duly elected officials. It's not protest, it's insurrection.
Hours later, in a video posted on Twitter, President Trump repeated an unsupported claim that the election was stolen, even as he urged his supporters to go home.
I know your pain. I know you're hurt. We had an election that was stolen from us. It was a landslide election, and everyone knows it, especially the other side. But you have to go home now. We have to have peace. We have to have law and order. We have to respect our great people in law and order.
Meanwhile, reactions trailed the violence both home and abroad.
Today was a dark day in the history of the United States Capitol. But thanks to the swift efforts of U.S. Capitol Police, federal, state, and local law enforcement, the violence was quelled, the Capitol is secured, and the people's work continues. We condemn the violence that took place here in the strongest possible terms. We grieve the loss of life in these hallowed halls, as well as the injuries suffered by those who defended our Capitol today.
President Trump has continually refused to acknowledge defeat in the 2020 presidential race and is still pushing claims of a fraudulent election, which has been dismissed by U.S. courts at different levels due to a profound lack of evidence.
And that's News Round this week. Thank you so much for watching. I'm Teniola Shubawale. Have a lovely weekend.